Never forget that. And I'm just having a fun way today, an enjoyable way, I should say, showing you, I'm going to show you in a minute, how one person did it, and the purpose of this is we do it as well today. And you have to be very honorable and very honest when you read Scripture to make sure that you are not reading it for your own comfort, but rather you're reading it for your own spiritual growth. Most people read Scripture for their own comfort, and they read it devotionally instead of reading Scripture as a knife to cut out the junk in your life so that you can mature in Jesus Christ. Now, I'm going to read to you start part of the infancy story of the Gospel of Thomas, not the Gospel. Now, some of this stuff is is great. You like it, okay? And as I read it, what I want you to do is say to yourself, I wonder why this resonated with people. Because this has been around for a long time. Okay, now I read you the opening thoughts about Jesus. Now I'm going to skip forward. This is chapter 4. This is about Jesus, chapter 4. Later he was going through the village again when a boy ran by and bumped him on the shoulder. Jesus got angry and said to him, "You won't continue your journey." And all of a sudden he fell down and died. That's Jesus. Jesus didn't die. Some people saw what had happened and said, "Where does this boy come from?" Everything he says happens immediately. The parents of the dead boy came to Joseph and blamed him, saying, "Because you have such a boy, you can't live with us in the village, or else teach him to bless and not curse. He's killing our children." Now, you need to understand, this was serious reading back then. Okay? And you can see why Irenaeus said, this doesn't quite fit. Anyway, chapter 9. A few days later, Jesus was playing on the roof of a house when one of the children playing with him fell off the roof and died. When the other children saw what had happened, they fled, leaving Jesus standing by himself. The parents of the dead child came and accused Jesus. "You troublemaker, you're the one who threw him down." Jesus responded, "I didn't throw him down. He threw himself down. He just wasn't being careful and leapt down from the roof and died." Then Jesus himself leapt down from the roof and stood by the body of the child and shouted in a loud voice, "Zeno," that was his name, "get up and tell me, did I push you?" He got up immediately and said, "No, Lord, you didn't push me. You raised me up." Chapter 10. A few days later, a young man was splitting wood in the neighborhood when his axe slipped and cut off the bottom of his foot. Ouch. He was dying from the loss of blood. The crowd rushed there in an uproar, and the boy Jesus ran up too. He forced his way through the crowd and grabbed hold of the young man's wounded foot. It was instantly healed. He said to the youth, "Get up now and split your wood and remember me." Okay? Here's 13. Now, Jesus' father was a carpenter making plows and yokes at that time, and he received an order from a rich man to make a bed for him. Now, see if you can finish this. Now, this is great reading, but again, my purpose of this, other than I'm enjoying it, is people read this and took this seriously, and so the question is, why did they take it seriously? Why was it taken seriously? What need was it fulfilling? And again, my purpose is that we do the same thing. We do the same thing. You'll know the end of this story. Now, Jesus' father was a carpenter making plows and yokes at that time, and he received an order from a rich man to make a bed for him. When one board of what is called the crossbeam turned shorter than the other, and Joseph didn't know what to do. "Child," Jesus said to his father, "put the two boards together and line them up at one end." Joseph did as the child told him, and Jesus stood at the other end and grabbed hold of the shorter board, and by stretching it, made it the same length as the other. That great trick. His father Joseph looked on and marveled, and he hugged him and kissed the child, saying, "How fortunate I am that God has given this child to me." Okay? I'll do a couple more. Here's 16. Joseph sent his son to tie up some wood and carry it back to the house, and the child, Jesus, followed. While James was gathering the firewood, a viper bit his hand. And as he lay sprawled out on the ground dying, Jesus came and blew on the bite. Immediately the pain stopped. The animal burst apart, and James got better on the spot. Now, remember, well, you'll see what I'm going to show you. This is chapter 19. See if you've ever heard this. When he was 12 years old, his parents went to Jerusalem as usual for the Passover festival, along with their fellow travelers. After Passover, they began their journey home. But while on the way, the child Jesus went back to Jerusalem. His parents, of course, assumed that he was at the traveling party. And after they had traveled one day, they began to look for him among their relatives. When they did not find him, they were worried and returned to the city to search for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple area, sitting among the teachers, listening to the law and asking them questions. All eyes were on him, and everyone was astounded that he, a mere child, could interrogate the elders and teachers of the people and explain the main points of the law and the parables of the prophets. His mother Mary came up to him and said, "Child, why have you done this to us? Don't you see we've been worried sick, looking for you?" "Why are you looking for me?" Jesus said to them. "Don't you know that I have to be in my Father's house?" Now, as you can see, what happened is that the writer of this had the passage from Luke, and this is the way he ends his infancy gospel. Now, I point this out, again, not to beat a dead horse or anything like that. And it is important, and I have fought for truth, and I have really fought for truth when it comes to understanding Scripture. I am convinced that with very few expectations, we interpret Scripture according to our culture to make us feel better about ourselves. As a result, we have no idea virtually what Scripture really is telling us. Virtually no idea. What Thomas did, not the Thomas, 100 years or so after, 75 years, whatever, after the resurrection of Jesus, he decided that what we have to do is we have to fill in the blanks. And so he gets all of this information. He doesn't know if it's true or not. It's given to him. He presumes that it's true. And he writes it down. And then he presents this as a gospel, as if this is true. Many, many hundreds, if not thousands of people, within just a few decades, well, a few, more than, 9 or 10 decades after Jesus Christ, they believed that it was true too. And just because somebody is holy or appears holy, or just because somebody appears sincere, or just because somebody appears to be spiritual, doesn't mean that they are, because virtually everything that we do is a reflection of what we want our own hearts to see as truth. And that's why it takes bravery and honor and courage to read Scripture properly. I wish that for everybody this new year. This is a great read for anybody that wants a copy. I'll tell you how to get it. It's got all this stuff in it. And with that said, I wish you all a happy new year. Next week, we're going to do something really fun. And I'm serious about this because I will be leading it. Those of you who remember our old friend Bob Watt, he correctly said that I sing like a meadowlark. That's what he would say.